When was the last time you admitted you didn't know something? Most people never do, and that's why they never grow. Socrates, who lit the torch the Stoics later carried, said, "The only true wisdom is in knowing you know nothing." On the surface, that line sounds like a paradox. How can someone wise admit ignorance? But look closer. The admission isn't a confession of weakness. It's a declaration of strength. To say, "I don't know," is to open a door that pride keeps shut. It is the starting line of genuine learning. The Stoics understood this. Arrogance blocks growth because it convinces you that you've already arrived. It turns the mind into a museum, quiet, polished, and dead. Humility, by contrast, turns the mind into a workshop, messy, alive, and always under construction. The Stoic never asks, "How do I look?" but "What did I learn?" That shift, away from performance and toward progress, is where wisdom begins. Think of Marcus Aurelius, emperor of Rome, holding more power than anyone on earth, yet he writes in his private journal as if he were a student, testing ideas, questioning motives, correcting himself. This is not insecurity, it's discipline. To Marcus, every day was class and life was the teacher. He knew the throne doesn't grant knowledge, humility does. The person who refuses to be taught will eventually be taught by consequences. Epictetus sharpened the point. It is impossible for a man to learn what he thinks he already knows. Pride says, "I've seen this." Humility asks, "What am I missing?" Pride stamps the final period at the end of every sentence. Humility leaves a question mark, an open space where new understanding can enter. Notice how humility changes the way you meet failure. When the arrogant stumble, they crumble, because the fall threatens their identity. But the humble treat failure like data. They don't ask, "How could this happen to me?" They ask, "What is this trying to teach me?" That one pivot from blame to learning turns pain into a tutor. Your ego wants to protect you from the embarrassment of not knowing. Your soul wants the truth, even if it stings. The Stoic chooses the soul. Humility also transforms the way you handle success. Without humility, success hardens into certainty. I was right, therefore I am always right. But the Stoic says, "This worked here. Now, why? Under what conditions? What are the limits? What would change my mind?" In other words, they audit their victories. They don't marry outcomes, they study them. That's why Stoic strength endures. It's built on reality, not reputation. In daily life, humility is profoundly practical. It improves decisions because it widens your field of view. It invites perspectives you would otherwise dismiss. It slows you down just enough to ask better questions. What assumptions am I smuggling in? What evidence would prove me wrong? What don't I see because I don't want to see it? Who has solved this before, and what did they do differently? Humility makes you a better friend and leader. When you don't need to pretend you're right, you can prioritize what's right. You can listen, not just pause while you wait to talk. You can absorb criticism without feeling attacked, because your identity is not glued to being correct. You start to value clarity over victory, understanding over applause. That is rare. That is powerful. And notice how humility reduces anxiety. Certainty is heavy. You carry it like armor, but it traps you in yesterday's conclusions. When you allow yourself to say, "I might be wrong," you become lighter. You trade the burden of pretending for the freedom of learning. Humility doesn't erase standards, it raises them. It says, "Because I value truth more than ego, I will update. Because I value growth more than pride, I will change." The Stoics turned this into practice. Marcus Aurelius used journaling to interrogate impressions. Is this within my control? What's the simplest explanation? What virtue is called for right now? Epictetus taught students to pause between impression and assent. Don't let the first story your mind tells become the final story you live by. That pause, that tiny doorway where you can choose curiosity over certainty, is where humility lives. Humility also protects you from the tyranny of labels. The moment you say, "I'm the smart one," you stop asking questions that might challenge that identity. The moment you say, "I'm the expert," you stop apprenticing yourself to reality. The Stoic avoids this trap by preferring verbs over nouns, not "I am wise," but "I am learning," not "I am courageous," but "I am practicing courage." The work continues. The ego loosens. Even in conflict, humility is an edge. Anger says, if you disagree with me, you attack me. Humility says, if you disagree with me, you might be handing me a piece of truth I don't yet have. You don't have to accept every argument, but you consider it. You test it. You extract value. You remain a student, even of your critics. As Seneca observed in many letters, a wise person can learn even from an enemy, because wisdom cares about the lesson more than the source. Humility does not mean shrinking. It doesn't mean silencing your voice. It means anchoring your voice in reality. It means speaking firmly, but keeping a window open. It means being decisive today and corrigible tomorrow. The Stoic stands tall, but on flexible knees, ready to adjust stance as the ground of evidence shifts. Consider a few practices that embody this posture. 1. The 3 words practice. I don't know. Say them more often, not as an excuse to be lazy, but as a pledge to go find out. Each time you say it, follow with action, read, ask, test, measure, reflect. Ignorance is not a sin. Refusing to cure it is. 2. The question ledger. Keep a page in your journal labeled questions I'm avoiding. Write down the inquiries your ego resists. What if my plan is wrong? Where am I procrastinating because I'm afraid? Which belief have I kept because it flatters me? Revisit weekly. Progress begins where avoidance ends. 3. The adversary test. Imagine the strongest counterargument to your position, built by someone intelligent who disagrees with you. Steelman it. If your idea still stands after that pressure test, you've earned confidence. If it wobbles, you've earned an upgrade. 4. The beginner's walk. Once a week, learn something as if for the first time. A simple skill, a new tool, a small language phrase, a basic repair. This keeps your mind limber. Mastery without humility calcifies. Mastery with humility renews. 5. The correction ritual. When proven wrong, thank the person who helped you see it. Out loud, immediately. This rewires pride into gratitude and makes your environment safe for truth. 6. The outcome autopsy. After major wins or losses, perform a calm review. What did we control? What was luck? Where were we blind? What will we do differently? Humility isn't just for failures, it's for successes too. Humility also reshapes how you relate to time. Pride is impatient, it wants the headline now. Humility takes the long view. It knows that deep learning compounds quietly, that today's I don't know becomes tomorrow's solid ground precisely because you refuse to fake certainty. The Stoic plays an infinite game, not winning arguments, but gaining understanding, not collecting followers, but cultivating virtue. And what about identity? Humility frees you from the brittle performance of always being the expert, the strong one, the talented one. You are allowed to be a learner in public. You are allowed to say, teach me. You are allowed to update without shame. The people who matter will respect you more for it. The ones who don't were never measuring you by truth in the first place. Look again at the line from Socrates, knowing you know nothing. He didn't mean ignorance is the goal. He meant the stance is the goal. The posture that keeps knowledge flowing. It's the cup held low enough to be filled. It's the mind spacious enough to welcome correction. It's the heart sturdy enough to survive the admission, I was wrong. Far from weakening you, that admission is a forge. Character is hammered there. In the end, humility is not self-erasure, it's self-alignment. It lines you up with reality, where growth actually happens. It replaces the fragile pride of appearing wise with the durable joy of becoming wiser. It turns the world into a living library. Every failure a footnote, every conversation a chapter, every day a new page. Approach life like a student and the world becomes your classroom. Every person becomes a teacher. Some show you what to do, others what not to do. Every challenge becomes a test, not of your ego, but of your willingness to learn. This is how the Stoic grows. Not by pretending to know everything, but by being open to everything. So carry this with you. Humility is not thinking less of yourself. It's thinking of yourself less. and of truth more. Say, I don't know, not to end the discussion, but to begin the discovery. Replace pride with curiosity. Ask the question you're afraid to ask. The humble grow. The arrogant crumble. Be the student, always. So maybe wisdom doesn't start with answers. It starts with honesty. I don't know isn't a weakness. It's a doorway. It turns the world into a classroom, and every moment into a lesson. So today, trade certainty for curiosity. Ask better questions. Listen a little longer. Because the humble don't shrink, they grow. If this message spoke to you, subscribe and share it with someone who needs permission to learn out loud. Be the student, always.